What's up, you guys? Welcome to the TechCity podcast. Belarus from TechCity back here. Like I say all the time, if you are listening online, if you are listening via audio, holla. And if you're watching on YouTube, hey. And you can see that I'm not alone on the podcast today. I have a rather old friend-ish on the podcast today. And as we carry on with the conversation, as I introduce him, you will get to know who he is, but even more importantly, what he is up to and just how amazing he's been able to turn an idea that kicked off when smartphones were not exactly the in thing, and how he was just able to leverage on technology and the media, and how all of that has just, metamorphosed into something really great in the Generation Z era that we're in right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please say welcome to my guest on the podcast today, Wale Adetula. Hi.
Hi. Yes.
So the shortest introduction I can give of you is the founder of the Naked Convos, TNC. Crowd goes wild. Oh my days. Now, for those who don't necessarily follow you on Twitter, for instance, they may not exactly know who Olawale is, but you see TNC is one name or a brand, I guess I could call it, that many people have heard for the longest time. Well, before we get to TNC, talk to me about yourself. So we need to know who the guy behind TNC is.
It's always fascinating when people are asking about myself, because I never know where to start from.
I can imagine.
I'm a lot of things in one, but lately I'm trying to just stick with the TNC sort of description, because it's very simple and straightforward. But basically, I am a creator. That's how I describe myself.
Nice.
Through and through. Spent the last maybe 15 years, creating different sort of businesses, a lot around the media, digital marketing sort of space across Africa. I'm very passionate about Africa, so everything I've done, has been not just Nigeria, but Africa as a whole.
Nice.
So I guess that's me in a very simple way, and we can probably get into the details much later.
No worries at all. Yeah. So talk to me about what inspired TNC, as someone who's of course been involved with marketing and creation, right? Yeah. How did you come about the Naked Convos?
Well, the Naked Convos started 2010. It feels like ages ago now.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, Twitter had literally just kicked off. There wasn't a lot of activity online
at all.
And all of that, right? And for me, I grew up in the sort of forums and blog era, and even way before that.
Yeah.
And so at that point in time, I was always looking for that one place where, as a young Nigerian, I could go to express myself, speak to people about things that, we naturally could not discuss with sort of the older Nigerians, because there were some things that
or even in public as such.
In public, exactly. There were just some things that were considered taboo. Like, you could never talk about, sex, sexuality, religion in a certain way, even now. But way back then, it was a lot worse.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create a safe space where young people could just come together and have these very honest conversations with ourselves. And that was what led to TNC. So it started off as a blog, a personal blog. Most people don't know. It started as a personal blog, the Toolsman blog first, and then So that was where
I feel old.
When I talk about WordPress blogs, now people just look at me like, what are you talking about, right? But so it started off as the blog, and then eventually evolved into the Naked Convos, the community as we know it. But that was the motivation. That was the real inspiration behind it.
I think one of the major things that I remember very well about the Naked Convos blog at the time was relatively popular people were reading it and commenting.
Yeah.
That for me was a big thing, because you would maybe hear some voices on the radio at the time. I had not done radio then. So some of these guys were people I looked up to, and then you would be on the website and you would see some names and you're like, this person actually reads this blog and takes the time to actually comment. How did it make you feel when you saw all of that? Because I was just freaking out. I was excited. So how much more you, the owner of the blog?
No, but you see, the thing is, there wasn't a lot of avenue out there, for people to express themselves.
Sure.
Then. So it was very obvious what we were trying to do, and we got attention very quickly. I used to tell people before things like trending on Twitter was a thing.
Yeah.
We literally used to trend like almost every week then, right? Because we were engaging. People were really having those hard conversations. So you bring a topic that people were very passionate about, and typically it would just permeate, culture, pop culture, go into radio. There'll be times I'll just be driving. Someone will just say, oh, I read this thing on this blog, and it'll be deleted. And I'm like, okay, right? So I think, it was just because there wasn't a lot of options, right? Then, but also we did quite a lot to stimulate conversations, right? It was all about the naked convos, naked conversations. So the way we would put the content together, encourage people to comment, moderate the commenting, because it was very important. If you shut people down, they will get scared or get, and just move away. So we always encourage conversation. We had very strong rules, community rules, to the point that people, even others, started policing the comment section. So if you misbehave, they'll kick you out, or they'll send a note to the admin to say, you know what, you need to sanction this person. So it really encouraged engagement.
Were there ever moments where you felt like, well, this person hasn't done wrong as such? Because sometimes you see that it helps people understand Twitter guidelines, for instance, and Instagram and all of those things. Sometimes people say stuff like, oh, they need to take this account down, and Twitter community guidelines will say they have not exactly breached the guidelines. Did that ever happen to you back then?
A lot. You see, so I used to tell people there was a period, I think sometime around 2013 or thereabout, where we were transitioning from one editor to the other.
Right.
So I had to step in to play the role of the editor for a few months. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, because at the editor level, you literally control the agenda for the platform, because you approve what goes out, and whatnot. And it was a struggle for me, and that was when I realized very quickly how easy it is for us to bring in our own biases into the media, and how we control what goes out there.
Set the agenda.
Set the agenda, knowingly or unknowingly, right? And you see a lot of us that are very aware, that are very out there, right? We live in a bubble. There's a huge Nigeria, Africa out there that we do not know about.
Whether we admit it or not.
Exactly. And it's very easy for us to just, dismiss it. So when you have that responsibility to own a platform where people with so many opinions and voices come, it's very important for you to play that balancing act. And it was very tough for me because I had never done anything like that. But just seeing it that way gave me a different perspective. And, when we got new editors, I always reminded them that, look, you need to really immerse yourself and be as open as possible so that we're fair. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So were all of the stories and, some of the content that was shared on TNC at the time, were they all real or were any just...
No, there was fiction. There was a bit of fiction, but the thing was, even the fiction was inspired by, what people were going through. Yeah. So it's not everyone that has the courage to come up and say, hey, by the way, I am polyamorous and I'm living in Nigeria or something or whatever it is, right? So they would write it in terms of fiction, and and it would still stimulate that conversation we're looking for. Yeah.
So for someone, before we go on to a few other topics around TNC, there are people right now who are content creators who feel like they cannot just succeed in that space, perhaps because they don't have advertising money, they don't have an enabling community, people are not supporting them, reading their stuff, sharing, etc. You kicked this off when there were no advertising tools as such. Yeah. What would your advice be to someone who's navigating that space right now?
What I would advise is just start, right? It's hard to say and hard to do, but the thing is, with content, right? Once you get the right sort of, what sort of audience you're targeting, right? And you create really good content, which is what I always emphasize. It may seem or sound funny now, but the fact that we have so much, content out there, it's very hard to cut through the clutter. So you need to go the extra mile to create something that really stands out. Then once you do that, be consistent. It might take 2 years, 5 years or whatever, but you need to be consistent. And the thing is, don't think, don't boil the ocean, right? Look for what is easy and what you can create, maybe with your phone, whatever it is, and just keep going. Someone somewhere will notice at some point in time, and that will be all you need to.
Now, apart from being editor for a few months, which you said was one of the hardest things to do years ago with TNC, what were the most difficult times for you at TNC when it was just a blog? What were these things you had to face that were not just
Of
pleasant?
course, all the basics, of running a business in Nigeria. There's the headache, right? So you need funds. You have to keep looking for money here and there, and media in particular is not something that a lot of people understand. So they're like, oh, what exactly are you guys doing? Are you just messing around or having fun and whatnot, right? They didn't really see the business side of things, so it was very hard raising funds. Finding talent, as funny as it sounds sometimes, finding the right people. If you're looking for like an editor or if you're looking for, columnists and things like that, you need to go through a very serious process to get the right people to match the quality of the platform, that you're trying to build. So finding that as well. There's several challenges, but I think those ones were really key for me. Yeah.
For bloggers at the time, the issue with getting people to advertise on your platform was also a big thing. It was a good revenue method.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
I would say yes and no. It was very short-lived and the reason was the sort of metrics that advertisers were using or to measure performance was very flawed, right? So from get-go, we were all living in the days of Alexa, where we all that
how
was
your
what
site
ranks and all of that, which for me was ridiculous because at the end of the day, it's vanity metrics, right? And I've always been performance-based from my marketing days, in terms of my thinking. But you would go and meet with, say, an agency, and the first thing they will ask you is, send us your Alexa rankings. And I'm like, I hope you guys know that I can actually influence this thing, but they don't care. And they will put you up against blogs that are doing, crazy numbers from Alexa. And I'm like, it really doesn't matter. But of course, those were some of the things that we had to live through, those times. So I think to some extent we benefited from it because we did get revenue from ads once we became popular and people started going there and all of that. But it was very short-lived because very quickly a lot more blogs caught onto it, and they all started influencing their Alexa rankings as well. So yeah, we had to look for other ways to differentiate ourselves.
I guess I feel like people are able to make friends in the comment section.
Yep.
People are able to find hope. They're able to find, some form of relief, whether from people who comment the exact same things as they, or people who are going through the exact same things, or just laugh it off in the comment section. Beyond policing, like you said, what were the other things that you observed about the TNC comment section community?
I think there were so many friendships and relationships that were formed. I think we even got a few couples that got married based off of that. Yeah, I think so. And I think at the end of the day, everybody's really looking for community, right? One way or the other, right? You're looking for, when you go on Twitter, yes, you are getting information and all of that, but you have those people that are your Twitter friends, right? That you can slide into their DMs, that you guys are having a side conversation and all of that, right? So I think it was that. And what was key for me was the fact that the sort of education that was going on. You would see some people would come in and they will just read comments. And then at the end, they will just post like, wow, I have learned so much just from the engagement that is going on here. All the things that I didn't know. And that for me was just gold. Yeah.
So does the website still exist?
The website still exists and there's still people visiting and reading all the stories there. Yeah.
So I know that TNC has taken it's expanded. It has scaled, right? Now you have gone from just doing text and web content to doing video, digital content. But between the time that you started creating that digital content with videos and all of those things, was there some kind of hibernation period? And what happened in that time, if there was?
I think it wasn't so much of a hibernation period. It was more of a transition for us, right? So, and it was within the space of a year, more or less, or a couple of years, where we were really testing and learning and experimenting. So for us, like I said, we created the platform when none of those kind of platforms existed, right? Then from 2012, 2013, once we saw Twitter take off, other blogs come on, we knew that, yes, in the long term, there will be, other platforms that could fill that need of going where you'd go to express yourself. So we already started looking for what next. So what next for the brand? Where are we going? What are we going to do? So I think around 2015, 2016, we then actively started looking for what next, experimenting. So we knew we wanted to do content, right? One way or the other, right? So what was it going to be? We started off with podcasts as way back then,
Nice.
right? So we did a few podcasts that did very well, but we saw that the scale was, pretty very minimal. We did books. We actually published books, a couple of books. We did a theater production, that was sold out. That was really great. We did quite a lot, and then we settled on, video creation, as it were. So the next step for us was now to decide which way to go. Were we gonna go the cinema route,
right,
or go digital? So that all of that took about 18 months or thereabout before we eventually kicked off sometime towards early 2018.
Okay, so before we go to other things that TNC has done and just how they have caught on as well, did transitioning to other forms of content, was it inspired by the dwindling number of readers?
Partly, but we always knew that was going to happen. We always knew, like we had seen the trend, and we even reached out to people within the industry to see how we could stem the tide and all of that, right? But for us, we knew that was going to happen, so we started looking for ways around that.
Right.
But also, we had always been about the bigger picture. So beyond, text or written stories and whatnot, what else could we do? So that had always been in the plan, regardless of dwindling numbers or not.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me about the big move. Well, not move, but what was, I guess, very what was super impressive in a sense for me was the fact that you went from having, very popular people reading your content and sharing and just, being a part of your community to having some of these guys act in your series. For me, like that was, for me, is like goals.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the decision to start and just the process. How easy was it? How I know.
No, so it was far from easy. So the moment we made up our minds, we knew we were going to go into video content, right? And we looked at the cinema side of things, and we didn't think that was the good fit for our brand. So we knew we wanted to go digital.
Right.
So digital content creation, and we opted to use YouTube as our distribution, sort of platform.
Okay.
And that was around 2017. And then we decided to do one more sort of experiment, which was to do a web series. We partnered with Red TV at the time to create Our Best Friend's Wedding. And for me, that was my first foray into doing anything, Nollywood related. So it was a huge learning curve in terms of, production, how you, get a production team together, how you source talent, and all of that, what sort of monetization model you're working with and everything. It was a huge learning. And I think at that point in time, one thing that was clear for us was we wanted to bring the same sort of innovation that we had brought into blogging into what we were doing. So it was all about what can we do differently? Okay. What are we doing? What's new? So at that point in time, when we were doing our sort of casting and reading process, we wanted new faces, new voices. And we decided to just move away from sort of traditional actors. So we went into media, saw who we could work with. We got them to come and do the reading, and then picked a few of them. So that was what led to Our Best Friend's Wedding, which was a huge success. It was a huge hit. It was really, really good. There was a lot of pain in that creation process because even at some point in time, we had to start reshooting. Almost 2 weeks into it. We had some issues with some of the cast members that got unfortunately injured in an accident, so we had to recast. It was a huge learning curve, like I said.
Yeah. But of course, the fact that you did have some form of support, that helped cushion a few. It did.
It did. I will say, it's always good to work with good partners. At that point in time, we were working with Red TV.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, that was their own first foray into it as well. So it's not like they had the bag of experience and everything. But for me personally, in my sort of professional capacity, I had done some work with GT Bank and Ndani and all of that. So I brought all of that to the fore.
Cool. So now you are doing your own productions on your own channel.
Yes.
What is that like? How do you source your stories? Do you have script writers? What inspires these stories? Are these stories from the TNC blog? How do you get the stories?
Yeah, so a lot of the stories we've started with are adaptations from, the TNC blog.
Nice.
Right? So basically, we have, like I always tell people, we have like a content gold mine. Like it's there. We have content for 10 years if we wanted to. Right?
That's a blessing.
It is. And we still have great relationship with those writers. So it's just for us to identify which ones, reach out to the writers and say, hey, we want to adapt your story. And then we start off from there. Then we're starting to build a sort of network of screenwriters as well, and also script writers that we could work with. So they come on board once we identify a story, we then adapt, and then we run it. I think it's been really interesting because for us, again, we are doing this long term.
Right.
When I tell people we have our production roster lined up for the next 3 years, they don't believe it.
That's good.
I tell people sometimes that I'm currently in 2024 because we have productions that we've done for next year already, and we're planning 2024. So we really want to see into the future and see how far we can plan.
How do you choose who features in your web series? How do you cast?
Yeah, so we have a very elaborate, casting process. Every single thing, we don't handpick. Maybe in one or two instances where more or less the parts have been written for that particular person, but we want to diversify as much as possible.
Okay.
That's one of the big things for us, bringing in new voices and having diversity. I mean, the last production we did, Little Black Book, we had about 65% female representation in our cast and in our production. And that is something we want to keep pushing as well. So for us, it is opening up that door of opportunity to as many people as possible.
I want to take you on this and perhaps make reference to your background in marketing. A lot of movie producers, whether they're doing web series or cinema movies, etc., always like to go for the established names because they want the numbers. And of course, as a marketing person, the numbers, the numbers are the most important thing. Why are you choosing to go in an opposite direction? And do you think that always choosing to go for people who have tons of followers on Instagram, etc., is it a bad idea as such? And does it actually make any difference at the end of the day?
No, it's not. So it's not a bad idea if what you're looking to do is just, push out content that that you can sell to a lot of people or get people who are more or less influencers that will just push out your content regardless of the quality of the content. For us, the quality of the content is priority. So that's where we start from. Who can we get on board that can deliver the content to the best of their ability, first of all, right? If the person happens to have a lot of followers on Instagram, great, right? And, the person will promote it as well. But that's not where we start from.
Right.
So we start from quality. And, the thing for us is, I know people who like to go for established names and all of that. We did a lot of research, right? And what we know from the research that we did, I mean, data is huge for us. There's nothing that we do that is not backed by data.
That's cool.
Every single thing, down to the colors that we choose, we do some sort of research.
That is good.
And all. So for us, we did that research, and the audience, what they told us is, look, there is more than enough demand and very little supply. Just give us good content. We really don't care, who's in there, as long as they're delivering it, to the best of their ability. So that's what we've decided to do. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So now let's talk about your decision to go for digital and not cinema. Yeah. People would think that cinema would be a great way for you to recoup how much money you're spending, etc. Why did you not go in that direction?
Well, for us as a business, it didn't sort of add up for us. Kudos to my colleagues and friends who go that cinema route. It's not easy.
You would rather give your content out for free on YouTube?
Well, it's I don't consider it free-ish because the idea is this: you need to give people what they want, and the idea is accessibility is key, right? There's no point putting your content behind a paywall or a brick wall that people cannot access when the idea is there's so much demand, right? And you want the person in Kafancha, Maiduguri, and the person in Lagos to still be able to engage with your content, right? Because if you put it in a cinema, trust me, it might be just 1,500 to you, but a lot of people cannot afford that. They may just be able to pay the odd 500 naira to get a data plan that they can use to watch this content. So why not do that, right? It's a trickier sort of route because the monetization and the business side of it is very tricky. I'll admit that, but it's something that we think that we can crack.
So let's talk about some of the content. Of course, you are big on content, and there are a number of people who feel like some of the kinds of conversations that perhaps you are having with your content and your series may be a bit too elitist, right? It's like, bring it down. Nigerians, it's not that we're not smart, but want to laugh, want to want to vibe. So do you think that this may be disenfranchising to a particular sect of the
Absolutely not.
Audience base?
Absolutely not. I mean, the research proves otherwise as well. That whole thing about Nigerians only want to watch comedy or they only want to laugh.
It's a lie.
I totally disagree with it.
Okay.
I feel like it's different sort of the same audience but sort of different distribution channels. I always tell people, if you go to cinema and you're watching a movie, for most Nigerians, right, or the average Nigerian, they want something fairly lighthearted that they can watch because they can't hit pause and rewind and to really get what's going on. But then if you're engaging with that content on your mobile device, you can always, go back if you miss something, if you don't get it and all of that. So it totally changes the way you engage with the content. And that for us is why there is absolutely no, restriction as to what we do. So on our channel now, the basis is we've got drama all across the board.
Okay.
Now we could do romantic drama, we could do comedy, we could do action drama. So we've got a show where we're actually premiering later on in June. And the idea is it's an action drama. That's the thing. And a lot of people, when we wrote the story and everything, a lot of people told us, oh, God, this is so different. Are you sure people are going to watch and all of that? But then the first season caught on very well. And now so many people are expecting the second season, right? So yeah, I think we as content creators, we also need to go the extra mile for the audience because you see people, they consume all sorts of content on other platforms. So why not here, right?
Do you have any plans of getting on Netflix anytime?
That's a tricky question. I have very good relationships, and I think we have very good connections there. There's been some conversations in the background, but for us right now, our priority is on our YouTube channel. Maybe eventually we may collaborate with other SVOD platforms. Yeah.
So you are also going from doing video content on digital to now doing audio content.
Yep.
Talk to me about that. You always just want to do hard things.
So I've always said, we always look for ways to innovate, do things differently. So when we started doing the web series, the visual versions of it, we had this idea, like, why can't we do it in audio as well? Because the thing for us is accessibility.
Right.
People want great content, right? Make it accessible to them. So if not everyone can afford the data plans to get on YouTube to stream, we know that audio is a lot cheaper from a data perspective.
Yes, definitely.
But then how can we do audio in an engaging way for Nigerians? So we decided we're only going to do audio series, right? So it's basically what you would call the radio dramas.
Yes, BBC radio dramas back in the day.
But now this is very, very, Nigerian, very African, very relatable. The stories are very relatable. So, we tried the first one. I think that was last year.
Right.
It did okay. People were like, this is new and all of that. And then we did the new one this year called Ashrabi, and it took off. So many rave reviews. We hit number 1 on the Apple fiction charts. It's doing really well. So I'm very happy about that.
That's exciting. It actually reminds me of Straight from the Heart, Ray Power, back in the day.
Yeah.
I cannot forget.
You're going to make us sound very old.
Straight from the Heart. But we are old now. We are millennials.
Wow.
Gen Zers are the owners of new generation. But, whatever. That's okay. That is really interesting. Talk to me about the production process of your audio dramas. Because I was watching something on Instagram the other day. I think it was a BBC radio drama that was being produced.
Okay.
And the person in question was trying to act as someone who was being brought out of a wheelchair, and there was an actual wheelchair there.
Yep.
You know, they were recording, and I thought this
Yep.
is so detailed. I like the fact that there's attention to detail.
Yep.
You're not just saying, "Oh, you know, the person is in an actual wheelchair, and it's just the audio that we're hearing."
Yeah.
How do you go about some of these
it,
things?
I think audio, in a certain way, audio is even a lot more work than video because, you know, you need to really put yourself in the position of the person listening. And you're trying to create that story so that the imagination does some work, but not too much work.
Yeah.
So you've already given them enough to work with. I think for me, I'll pick out Feifei, who leads most of our audio productions.
Okay.
She's an amazing talent, right? I really,
Hey.
love the day that we got to meet and we had a long conversation about, you know, the ideas and all of that. And, you know, when I see her work in the studio, I'm just like, wow. I'm blown away because she really, really gets into your mind and tries to understand what sort of sounds would you want to hear when you're describing the scene so that it's balanced. It's because it can be too much.
Yes.
Sometimes, you know, when you're maybe at a party, you're playing the sound of the band playing in the background, and there's so many things happening.
It
so you
can
just
be over
want
the top, yeah.
Exactly, you just want to balance it well, and I think she does it perfectly well. So yeah,
Great.
shout outs to Feifei.
So these stories on your audio, your audio web series are also TNC originals?
Yes, they are TNT originals, and we not only put them on our YouTube channel, they are available on all podcast channels as well.
That is incredible. So what are you going to do now? You have done blogs, you have done video content, you're doing radio dramas. What are your next steps?
I think for us is to keep innovating. There's still so much to do, you know, within that digital space. I mean, there's some, I may not be able to talk about them just yet, but we've got some really, really interesting and different kind of web series that we're going to explore in the next couple of years. I mean, and it's more about the sort of category and the genre that we're playing with now because, and you said earlier that Nigerians really only listen to comedy and stuff like that. But
that's the perception.
That's the perception and all of that. But for me, I'm like, why can't we do a proper musical, right?
You know?
Why? You know, we go to, you know, Terra Culture, we watch the
Waka,
theater
Saro,
and all of that, right? So why can't we do that? I mean, so many people watch Glee and they were so, you know, excited about it. But
Mamma Mia.
Exactly. I know it has to be done well,
Yeah.
so that people can really relate to it. So those are some of the things that we feel we can still innovate.
Do you think, I mean, when I hear you, I hear your love for just quality content, stuff that is globally standardized. Do you think that the work that you're doing in your closet, do you think it's impacting on the industry in general? Because people have, you know, they don't necessarily think Nollywood is great. It's just they are trying. So do you think that the work that you're doing and all of the effort you're putting into it is impacting on the industry at large?
I mean, almost every week I get someone that, you know, reaches out to me and says, look, we see you. Don't stop what it is that you're doing. We know that it's a lot of work and we see you. And we're starting to see it, you know, a few things that we have experimented with or we've created seep into the industry, people picking it up here and there. And that for us is validation, right? You know, before we started our YouTube channel, I don't think it was commonplace for sort of guys that had big YouTube channels to really engage with their audience. But from our own blogging days, we knew that was key. So you would never drop a comment that is unanswered on our YouTube channel, which is key. And people fell in love with it. And now I see, you know, other people trying to do stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, that's great because people want to be engaged. So we should engage people. Yeah.
Looking at all the work that you have to do you have enough time for family? I need to ask.
Thankfully, yes. My family will not let me rest if I don't spare time for them.
Great.
I try to balance things out. For me, it's tough, I must say. With all the different things that I do, but you need to be very deliberate about it. That's something that I've learned, you know, very early in life. So I'm a sucker for my calendar is my planner for life. So once I put in time and I say, look, this is family time, nothing is going to change that. So that's me.
Do you fear that, you know, perhaps so many people who are doing anything that's digital, there is that fear. There's just that, you know, dark cloud somewhere that the federal government can come and mess things up. Do you have those fears?
Of course, it's always there at the back of your mind because we're still in that sort of market where things are not very structured. You can just wake up and something will happen. But the great thing for us, and I wouldn't say that's part of the reason why we decided to go digital, but it is one of the reasons because there's a lot more democracy there. There's a lot less regulation there because you're part of a global... For now. But the thing is, you're part of a global sort of market, right? If you publish something on YouTube, I might be in the US, I might be in the UK.
And be able to
you get, right? So that's part of the reason. Of course, we will keep talking. We will keep engaging and educating the people in the government because I think that's where it comes from. Lack of education, lack of capability. So I guess as leaders and people who are really doing things in that space, we need to keep talking to them because that's the only way they will learn.
Great. Really awesome. How can people watch your content on YouTube? How can they listen to your audio drama? And how can they read stuff on the website?
We are the Naked Convos everywhere. So go on YouTube, search for the Naked Convos. You find our YouTube channel there. We've got amazing shows, Little Black Book. My Name is AZ, which is the season 2 is coming out this June. You can search for our podcasts. Just search for the Naked Convos everywhere as well. We're on Twitter, Instagram as the Naked Convos.
Awesome. I have really enjoyed this conversation, really have. And I hope that you have too. I'm sure that you have as well. Before you go, just like your final words to anyone who is in that content creation space, who's either having a block of sorts, whether it's writer's block or is not getting the views, is not getting the listeners, is not getting the visits to their website, and just really is passionate about content creation. What would your advice to that person be? I
would say, look at the numbers. The numbers will always tell you where to go. I think one of the benefits of digital is that most of the time you have numbers to back that
up. Your analytics are
exactly
always there
right.
To refer to.
And if you don't know how to interpret what is going on there, go on YouTube, go on Google. You will learn from people who are doing the same thing. Once you analyze the numbers, it will show you where to go. Go there and focus. Be very dedicated to it. It may not happen overnight. So, you need to really put in the work. Yeah.
Wise words of a wise man. Wale Adetula, my guest today on the TechCity podcast. Do make sure that you check out all the content that they're up to. I will leave links in the description box, so do make sure that you check them out. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and wherever you watch stuff like this. And don't forget to please give us a like as well. Till I come your way again next time, Belarus from TechCity saying bye-bye.